Chamber of Commerce. She was married for a brief time, which resulted in 2 kids who, in her words, are amazing. They're both married to terrific people and have, much to her delight, produced grandchildren, all in a really, like, the last 3 years. It's been a whirlwind in your family. Yes. She believes that entrepreneurs are positioned to be a vital part of the local economic fabric that will help us recover in the months and years to come. Mostly, though, Katy is a lover of people. She's always curious as to what their deal is. She's a reader and a gardener. She strives to live life authentically with a spirit of gratitude. I've been grateful to know Katy in different capacities over the last 20 years. My favorite was as mother of the bride when I had the opportunity to support her daughter Amy's wedding. She's a great mom, a respected and valuable community leader, and an incredible giver of grace. Please welcome Katy Thoma.
Well, that was very kind of you, Jody. I appreciate that nice introduction. I did write that bio because I still, even at this age, marvel at my mother's capacity of never running out of milk, and we always had clean underwear. With 5 kids, pretty amazing. She was the ultimate June Cleaver, that's for sure. So I am pleased to be here with you today. This is like super awkward, doing this on Zoom. I can't see anybody. So actually, if you yeah, so it's just weird. So so here I am in my house. So welcome to my little house. It's small. It's a little cottage. I live in the Avenues, and I've lived here for 28 years, and people are texting me. Okay, quit texting me, friends. For 28 years in this little house and remodeled it, and I love hosting people. As Jody said in the introduction, I am a lover of people. So I do have some things to share with you today. It's hard to keep my eye on the camera and my notes, and I can't see you. I can see Nicole. I'm like, okay, Nicole, you're my audience. The rest of you, hello, ladies.
We're gonna turn on our videos so you can see us.
Okay, but I do have a message for you today. So what I want to do is to kind of set a context of my own story, and I know it's not about me, but I think it's important that you'll hear from me, and maybe some of the things will ring true for you. So I'm just going to start out. I have typed written notes, which I will be referring to because there's some things I don't want to forget to tell you, and I can kind of go squirrel on you, so I don't want to do that. So I'm going to just start out and share, and and then we'll have some time at the end for questions, or if you need clarification. I think Nicole mentioned the chat box, so if you want to enter your questions, or I think because we're in webinar mode, you can also raise your hand. So what I want to just say that the reason why I agreed to do this, because it is an incredibly busy time. I'm incredibly busy in my own job as the CEO of the Chamber. We pivoted very quickly in order to support businesses in Chico, our members. And then at about day 2 or 3, it's like, no, we're going to support the entire business community, whether they're members or not. What's that going to look like? What does crisis communication look like? I had no idea. So, when you don't know, what do? You hire an expert. So we hired a communication firm that helped us pivot. And pivot is the operative word during this season, because if you don't pivot, you're going to die. You're going to be yesterday's news. So I need some color. I don't know if my hairdresser is on. I know that she had originally scheduled to be on before. I'm not going to tell you her name so that you don't want to go to her. But I'm in dire need of color. I need nails. Those of you that know me, usually they're like bright orange, pink, and they're gardener hand. They're so off. They're like nubs. It's just terrible. I actually took toenail clippers. I mean, it was like, I don't even have an emery board. It was like, so anyway, this whole COVID thing's been extremely humbling. In the pivoting at the Chamber, I'm doing videos nearly every day, and some of them I'm actually recording 2 or 3 at a time. And so I refer to it as my costume changes. So it's like, okay, this is going to run Tuesday. This is going to run. I got to run and change my shirt. And because of Zoom, I only have to change my shirt. So that's cool. And I'm not a shirt person. I'm not a pants person. I'm a dress person. And so, of course, I had to order a bunch of new shirts. So that was for the cause, of course. So, but it has been humbling because as extroverted as I am, I really have a perception of myself that's not real. When I talked about living authentically, I think I'm younger and prettier than I really am. So the reality is that I'm not. I'm old and I'm not as pretty as I used to be, that's for sure. And my hair's very gray. So, but I'm glad I used to be a blonde. So that's been a help. So when I agreed to speak a few months ago, and Nicole, I couldn't remember how long ago it was that you asked me that we talked in, but I think it was a few months ago. You know, it was a whole different world. And really in Chico and in Butte County, we had marked out life as before campfire, after campfire. Now it's before COVID and after COVID. And what does that mean for us? And I think that I'm going to share more about that. But what I do want to share with you is about my journey. And I want to share with you some of my victories and my failures. Because I think it's important that in that honesty that you will that you might learn something. So I'm going to share first of all who I am, what I am, and I'm definitely a people person. I'm an extrovert, and on the Myers-Briggs chart, I am like the most extroverted you can be. Though that's slipped a little bit since I've gotten older. I don't have the need to be with people I'm not as energized by people as I used to. I'm single, and so that can be a challenge, especially when you're with a stay-at-home order. The flowers behind my shoulder are from a friend, and I have another bouquet behind my screen from another friend. I've had coffee. I've had friends drop coffee off. I've actually had dinner dropped off a couple times. I had a friend come over last night. We did social distancing in my garden because I think the people in my life know how extroverted I am, and I think they're worried about me. My kids check in with me. My daughter checks in with me every day. My son checks in with me often as well. He's probably 3 or 4 times a week. So I think everybody's worried about me because they're worried I'm not going to manage well being an extrovert. So I've been working for a long time. I started paying into Social Security in 1973. That was 47 years ago. And as I was pondering that number of 47, I thought, there might be people on this call today or on this webinar whose parents are 47. So I've been working for a long time. I started my career in retail when I was in high school for a dress shop, and that's what we used to call them back in the day. And because I always loved clothes, and it was a great shop, and I got a significant discount on my clothes. So I did that, and then when I 2 summers, the summers of 1976 and 1977, I was a ride operator at Magic Mountain. And I can still do my spiel when people got on the ride, but I'm not going to do that today. But someday, usually I have to have had a beer or something to do that because it's kind of embarrassing. But it was a fun job. And I was on a team of, we were the only girl crew in the entire park that could be ride operators because only boys could be ride operators. So welcome to 1976 and 1977. Okay, and then in college, so I started Chico State in 74. In 1978 or something, I think it was, June 1st of 1978, I started my banking career. I worked part-time at Bank of America downtown as a teller, which worked out great because, as a student at Chico State, I could ride my bike to class, and back in those days, you could ride your bike on campus, and so it worked out really well. Bank of America was an incredible company to work for. They really set a foundation for my career. They really poured into their employees, really taught me a lot of really good business fundamentals lessons. So I did that, and then I left Chico for 4 years, and let's see here. What can I tell you about that? Okay, so did the banking 25 years. So my career, I did 17 years in banking. So then I went to the Jesus Center for 10 years. So that was really a switch going from banking to nonprofit, faith-based nonprofit. I used to call it management by upside down, because in business, the bottom line is profit. And in the nonprofit world, the bottom line is relationship. So it was a team of 2, and we have a part-time bookkeeper at the chamber. So I've just run the gamut in my career. One thing I can tell you is I'm not a coaster. I'm a lifelong learner. I think coasting, and I think people that are coasters, people that are complacent, and I don't know why people are complacent. And I want you to know that there's a difference between complacent and content. Those are 2 totally different things. I think people that are complacent maybe might suffer from insecurity. Maybe they're lazy. I don't know. And I have a real issue with lazy people. I think so that, and you'll, as you hear me, and I kind of wish I had thought about this morning, that maybe someday my daughter and I will do this together. So her perception on the lazy thing, and what happens is I created 2 type A children, and my daughter, I don't think was wired to be type A. I think I made her that way, and I've had to apologize a lot. I feel like I need to send her money for counseling. And actually that was a joke in our family, because she would say these things to me, and then I'd say, just put $50 in the jar for future counseling. I mean, I'm not empathetic. I do not have the gift of mercy. So there is so much to learn in the complacency, the whole thing about not being a coaster. But I do know that I made a lot of mistakes, and I have a lot of regrets. And in those regrets, I talk to people, especially around my age, and, as we reflect on our lives and the choices that we made. And so I'll sit around, it's usually women, and they'll say, oh, I don't have any regrets. And I'm like, really? I think you're a big fat liar. I mean, it's like, of course we have regrets, but what do you do with those regrets? And, as a person of faith, I believe that God can use all things for good. And I believe that, because that is so true in my life. So even in the mistakes that I made, they have woven into the fabric of my life, where I've been able to really heartfully look at those mistakes that I made and say, okay, what can we do with that? I mean, how can we, it's making lemons out of lemonade is basically what that means is. But one of the things, and truly those things are what have formed my character. And along the way, I've had some things that have happened to me. But I've learned to live a life of gratitude, because if you don't have gratitude in your life, you can truly become a bitter person. And, if you look at bitter people, especially older people, it's like on their face. I mean, you can literally see it in the wrinkles, and they're just like ticked all the time. It's like, gosh, what's wrong with you? So in my story, so by the time I was 27, I had been married, divorced, had 2 kids. My dad committed suicide. And then when I was 32, my mom passed away from cancer. And then in my 40s, I lost 2 siblings, one of whom was my least favorite brother, who I cared for in the last months of his life, which is the most amazing story of redemption that I can share with you another day, because that is such a great story. But we don't have time for that. So all that to say is, times were tough. And then after my brother died, then I went to work for a bank that failed, and I lost all my retirement, all that. And then working at the Jesus Center, there's no retirement. I have to think there's treasures in heaven, but there was no tangible retirement there. So I'm going to work a really long time, and that's okay. That's way okay. But those are the things that I have to focus on. It's like, okay, I'm so grateful that I'm healthy and I love what I do. So, those are things, but I think the whole overarching part of how living my life is living with gratitude. And really and truly, I feel very rich. I feel like I have great relationships. One of the things I learned when my dad died, when he committed suicide, is I was unreconciled with him. And I decided after that happened that I would never be unreconciled with people, that I would fix things, that I would keep short accounts with people so as to not have that, doggone it, why did I do that? I don't have it in me like to hate people. I hear sometimes people go, oh, I hate that person. And it's like, how can you hate anybody? I just can't live that way. And I think that as a result of that, I think that that's a lot of self-reflection. That's what that comes from. And that's what grace is all about, is giving grace to myself. And I'm able, when I realize the grace that's been bestowed upon me, it's really easy to give grace to others, because you know what? I don't know what their their wounds are or their issues are, and they're having a bad day. I think about learning in customer service early on in my career about, when somebody comes in and they just go crazy over something that happened. You don't know if they, I literally in training, they go, you don't know if they got in a fight with their spouse that morning, or, the PG&E cut their power off. You don't know where people are coming from. So I try to be really good with that. So lots of career changes. And so I figure at about this point, you're wondering what's wrong with me. Why couldn't I ever figure out what I wanted to do or to be? But my job choices were driven often by circumstances. So life is seasonal. So when my kids were young, I knew that I couldn't have like a big job because I needed to have something left over at the end of the day. So the choice I made was to be underemployed. To be underemployed, that means you don't make very much money either. But I wanted to have something left over for my kids. And I parented out of fear. I totally parented out of fear. Because I was divorced, we were considered a broken family. We were broken. It's like, what, And I totally bought in that we were broken. So under my own will, I was going to make sure that we were fixed, and I would fix it. And I used to tell my kids, if you can do math and read, you can be whatever you want, and, be kind and all that sort of stuff. But I was just like on them. Oh my gosh. And my kids are really funny. Really comedic, and they're comedic with each other, and they mock me on a regular basis. We have these family group texts, and they are just ruthless, and but they're hilarious. And even as little kids, they were funny, and they're real talented. Both of them are real musical, and they're just hilarious. So then I got this total fear, especially with my son. He could be a stand-up comedian. He's that funny. And which is interesting because he's a data scientist by trade. They don't really go together, but I had this fear that they would end up on Saturday Night Live and they would go the way of John Belushi and Chris Farley. And my son just loved Chris Farley. So, so total fear. So at that time I spent a lot of time with them and trying to find ways to have fun that didn't cost money. And so a number of years ago, I was working with a woman who had young kids, and they were going off on a Disney cruise, and they had saved long and hard. And they, I knew for a fact that they had two car payments, and they were going off to this Disney cruise, and they went out to dinner a lot, and we didn't do any of that stuff. So I was feeling kind of guilty that maybe I really had been a terrible mother, that I didn't take the big job so that we could have a nice car and go on a Disney cruise. So I asked my kids, I said, I'm just curious, what is your favorite memory as a kid? I am just really curious. So my daughter said that her favorite memory of a kid is on Saturdays we'd get up and do the chores. So by the way, my nickname is Captain. They would call me Captain because I ran a pretty tight ship. And So Saturday morning we'd get up and do their chore, or we would all do our chores. And, you know, they were age appropriate, of course. But I do have one that isn't so age appropriate that I think I'm going to digress and share with you. So my son's the only man in the house, the only guy. So, and he, one day I was tired of cleaning pee up off the floor. Those of you who have boys. And so one day, and I'm not kidding you guys, he was like 4, maybe 4.5. And I made him come in and I showed him and I said, you're going to clean this up. I go, you're the only man in this house. And we know that you did this. So I'm going to teach you how to clean a bathroom. And this is going to be your job. So one day we're at Food for Less and we're going down the aisle with all the house cleaning stuff, you know, where all the brushes are. And he holds up a toilet brush and he says to me, oh, Mom, will you buy this for me? Oh my gosh. And I thought, who's watching? They're going to call CPS. So I did buy him the brush. And then I remember telling him, your wife will thank me one day that you know how to clean a bathroom. And she is very grateful that he knows how to clean a bathroom. So anyway, so Amy says, my daughter says that after doing the chores, we'd hop on our bicycles and we'd ride to the park. And we'd often take a picnic. And we spent a lot of time riding bikes in the park, to the point that I know that when we started riding bikes in the park, that they had training wheels on their bikes. So they were really young when we started that. So I asked my son what his favorite memory was. And his was, we used to camp a lot at Bucks Lake. And I began taking the kids when they were 4 and 6 by myself camping. And so we spent a lot of time in the mountains. And we had friends who had a canoe that we could borrow. And so his favorite memory is when he was old enough to take his cousins out in the canoe by himself. And I think one of those cousins might actually be on the call. And when he thought he was Mr. Big Stuff. So, okay, so we didn't get a Disney cruise, but you got to canoe on, you know, Bucks Lake and, you know, ride in the park and all that. So, so the jobs that I've held have been interesting. They're all about people. Every single job is about people. On one job interview, I had this woman who didn't know me at all. She actually lived in Idaho for one of the banks I worked in. She was a regional person. And she said, you know, you have a very interesting resume. She said, you've had a lot of different kinds of jobs, but the common denominator is that they all have to do with people and they're all solution oriented. So as a banker, you know, you want to provide solutions for your customers. At the Jesus Center, you know, there's all kinds of solutions that are required there. At the Research Foundation, it was providing an environment where of compliance for researchers. At the Chamber, it's advocating on behalf of our members. So they're all about people, and it's just this common thread. I grew up in a family where our DNA was about volunteering, being part of a community that you would give back. So I was always, and my parents modeled that. And so, you know, I was always a part of volunteering or being with people and serving people. So, and I really feel like I've passed that on to my kids, that they too feel the need, or I don't want to say the need or the requirement, that's just a part of your life. You know, much is given, much is required, and they both have been very successful in their careers. And so I often ask them about their giving. Oh, so how are you doing on that giving? You know, what is it that you're doing in your giving? And so those are some really fun conversations. And they know that we have been provided. When I was at the Jesus Center, we received some amazing gifts. And I mean, I actually received the gift of a brand new car. 54 people bought me a car. And buying this house, I was given, I didn't think they were gifts at the time, but I think I needed something like $6,000 to buy my house. And 3 different people pitched in, and I was able to buy my house, and including my brother-in-law, who was always very generous. And so they see that and they remember that. And so I think that's been fun. They also know about giving anonymously, of doing things under the radar and giving. And I think my daughter sat on the board of a nonprofit in Sacramento for many years. And she would often just send money to the director and not tell him, you know, who it was from, so that he could have a date night with his wife. And so she would have enough money in there for, you know, a date and a babysitter, because she just remembers that you're giving to the organization, but what about the person, the people behind it? And so, so that's it. So along the way, so let's talk about you guys. So what I am not entrepreneurial, and I can't even spell it. And so that is another good reason that I can't be an entrepreneur, because I don't know how to spell it. It's always, you know, and then spell check. And then sometimes I spell it so badly that spell check can't even fix it. So I have to go, pen, is it pen or pew? Anyway. So that's one of the reasons why I can't be an entrepreneur. But one of the things, believe it or not, is I am risk adverse. I am totally risk adverse. And how I discovered I was risk adverse was while I was working in banking, and I would work with these sole proprietors and these people, these dreamers, and they would start these businesses, and they're working all the time, and they're living on credit cards, and they're hawking their, you know, mom's jewelry, and they're making all these sacrifices, and they're just living on the brink of disaster. And I thought, I could never be like that. That would make me sick. And it's totally, I think it's a temperament thing. I really think it's totally temperament. It's not how I'm wired. But what I am good at, and I don't say this because I'm so great or anything, is I'm a really good implementer. So if you were to say, okay, this is, and this is true, I mean, this is real life. If you tell me you want something to be a particular way, or you need something, I am the most resourceful, scrappy person. And I have the gift of begging. Nobody ever says no to me. I mean, when I was at the Jesus Center, so there's a proverb that says something about beware of the woman whose mouth drips with honey, because she'll take you down or whatever. My nickname at the Jesus Center was Drippy Lips. And the kitchen manager would come in and he said, hey, Drippy Lips, the such and such just broke. You think you could get us one of these things? I'm like, oh, sure, no problem. Hey, we need and they, okay, we have on Tuesday or whatever. So, but implementation, you guys need implementers like me, but I need you. So, I think at this point in time, and this is serious business, entrepreneurs are vital. That is truly the backbone of this country. When you think of the brave men and women and the pioneers, that what they have created, what they've invented. I think one of the things that I find so amazing about entrepreneurs is that you see unmet needs or a problem, and you have a solution that I didn't even know was a problem until you produced the solution. And it was like, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? I mean, I just, it blows my mind. So I am like not creative. And what's really sad is in the intro, I come from creative people. They're tall and thin people. I'm the short round one that loves, I love a good spreadsheet. Oh my gosh. And I've been known to put our family vacations on spreadsheets just because it's practical, right? And I've taken a lot of flack for that in life. And even my economist son gives me flack about it. They go, remember when we were going and you put, you know, yeah, okay. But I love a good spreadsheet. But I think the thing about you creative entrepreneurs is that you dare to believe that what you have to offer this world needs. I mean, you dare to believe that you can think of something. The cousin that I referred to in the canoe that I hope is on this call, we were sitting on the shores of Lake Almanor last summer, actually maybe like last September, and the wind was blowing and the towels were all moving and it was a little bit rocky. And so she was talking about, you know, we really should develop a towel that has some cushion in it, but you can roll it up or it's got some wet. And she's going, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who thinks of these things? I'm sitting there uncomfortable, you know, with my booty in the rocks, trying to admire, you know, Mount Lassen and the beautiful lake. And she's always thinking. I mean, she is always thinking. And she's done some great things. And I think that y'all ponder stuff all the time. I think that you're always thinking about a better whatever. And I am so literal that I can't think of I can't be so abstract. You need to learn your multiplication tables or whatever they do it now at Common Core. I don't even know what that means anymore. But so I am so grateful for you that that you are dreamers, that you are entrepreneurs. With COVID-19 right now, we talk about pivot. Oh boy, we are pivoting in spades. The world is not going to look the same. I promise you, it is not going to look the same. It's not going to look the same in Chico. So we are very, very dependent on you right now for that, because something that you were doing, I mean, Jody, you know that with what you do. So what are you going to do? How are you going to pivot so that you can continue in your work? Because it's going to be a while before we're going to gather with a couple hundred people. It's just going to be a while. But there are things that I know because of the creativity. Also, the fact that you have community with one another, that is so vital. And there's always somebody smarter than you. I promise you, there's always somebody smarter than you. I feel very fortunate. I have surrounded myself by different groups of women for different purposes in my life. I have one group of women, and is actually one we sat in the garden last night, are some professional women. There's 5 of us that run nonprofits, organizations, fairly large organizations in Chico, who we meet and we just swap ideas and, dealing with the board of directors, because I have 27 bosses, you guys, 27 bosses. And then I have this executive committee, 9 of whom are of the 27. And they're all super smart, all have opinions. How do you balance that? How do I say, your job is policy, my job is operations. Don't tell me how to run don't tell me how to run the ship. You just set the policy, because remember, again, I'm an implementer, so I'm a really good operations I should say, oh, I'm so great, but I'm an operations person, not the policy setting type of person. So surrounding myself by people like that are very encouraging. And then I have other people too. I have one woman that I meet with once a week for breakfast, and we've been meeting for 20 years. And then we added another one about 4 years ago, and we meet for breakfast. And it's like, man, it's down and dirty. It's real life. And we have been through the war together. And especially the one that I've been meeting with for 20 years, and we're totally the opposite. She's an introvert. I mean, like an introvert as much as I'm an extrovert. And she was in ministry for 35 years, and she's really kind, and she's just a pile of mercy. I mean, she enters into your pain, where I'm like, you know what? You need to put your big girl panties on and get on with life. I'm more empathetic than I used to be, but that's kind of the bubble that comes out of my head. It's like, oh yeah, big baby, but she's like, she has really helped soften my sharp edges just by watching her life and the fruit of her life. So it's really important that you guys really do stay up close and personal, that you really swap best practices and resources, because I know y'all need capital, you need money. And we used to talk about the entrepreneurs I don't want to say you guys come with a warning, but you kind of come with a warning in the world that I came from. And so entrepreneurs, how they get their capital, and I'm sure you've heard this before, right? Family, friends, and fools. And when you've exhausted those people, then you'll go to the bank, right? And then we're like, so I think there's probably pain there. So, but there are ways, but I think staying in community, having your small groups, I don't know, I can't remember what you call them, but that really is important. It's really important. And to live authentically, I each year I choose a word to live by, And probably in about it was about 2005, I chose the word authentic because I wanted to live authentically. I didn't want to be one person at the bank, another person at home, another person to my kids or even my ex-husband or whatever. I wanted to live authentically. And I have tried and I strive for that. I honestly do. Makes life a lot easier because then you can just be who you are and allow people to speak into your life and to know. So those are the things I want you to take today is live authentically, be grateful, stay in community, and share your best practices in your community. So that's all I got to say about that. If anybody has questions.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was amazing. We're going to have Morgan come back on. And I think, is my internet connection slow?
You not know it's a water glass.
Well, we wouldn't judge you. You're at home, so.
I'm not much of a drinker. My mom used to tell me it was my fair skin. That's why I didn't drink well.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
So yeah, we just really appreciate you giving of your time and being here, Katy. And to go back to a few things that you said, the entrepreneur thing, I can't spell it either. And so they told me I need to learn how to spell that. I first met Katy, I think in high school. I went to junior high with her daughter. And I also grew up with a single mom, Katy. And I just remember admiring you for how powerful you were. And being jealous of that, honestly, of just seeing your beautiful house and your amazing life and still getting to see you and your humor. Like, I really admire you, and I'm so thankful that you were able to be here today. So we have a few questions for you. Let me go, let's see. So you talked about motivation. So for people, especially during this time, they're stuck at home, their lives look so different. What would you suggest to people who may be struggling to feel motivated?
It's discipline. And I've had to do that myself. And how I've done it is, and forced my team is we have a Zoom call every day at 9, and we hit the deck. And when I say hit the deck, that's our laptops at 8:30. So there's some pre-stuff that you got to do before we hit 9 o'clock. So, that's about the time I would start work anyway. So it's discipline. It's getting up, seriously, make your bed, take a damn shower, okay? Do your hair, have some self-respect. I mean, seriously. I did put earrings on for you today. I don't usually wear earrings. And because I haven't gotten a damn haircut, you can't even see them. But it's really that, it's kind of almost like a self-respect thing. And I know, and it's easy. I know that some people actually have mental health issues that some of these things can really rock their world. So I want to be respectful of that. But I think it's discipline. I think it's setting order to your day, and eating right. And I cannot believe how much I'm cooking, and it's just me, right? How much I'm cooking, how many times I'm running the dishwasher now, because I didn't used to run the dishwasher that often, but I'm running the dishwasher all the time. And I'm only doing white loads because I have a couple pairs of white pants, and it's like, and panties and like my undergarments. So it seems like I'm doing white loads of laundry, but keeping those things up. And then at noon, because I'm the information guru, right? So I have lunch every day with the governor. He does a press conference at noon. So I make sure that I have my lunch ready to go at noon. Something I hope, usually it's leftovers from the night before because I try to do something well. And then the other thing is ending my day. I mean, end my day. And what my day ends, how I discipline myself is I just closed the lid of my laptop, and it was like, the day is done. The evening is mine. Mm-hmm. Oh, I think it's just setting a schedule. And I know that many of you are having to homeschool your kids, and some of them actually homeschool anyway. But those that aren't used to homeschooling and have a job outside the home, it's really tricky. So kudos to you. I don't know how you do that. And you probably don't have clean underwear in the drawer, and you probably don't have any milk. And I totally get that, because that was me. I don't know how that happened. So, and also the other thing along with that is give grace to yourself. I mean, be kind, be nice. You know?
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. So, can you expand on the difference between complacency and contentment?
So complacency is settling, in my opinion, that you just settle for the life that you have. And contentment is having peace where you are. And I know that I don't know if that makes sense or not, but contentment for me is being grateful for what you have, relationships, or I mean, I'm so grateful for my garden right now. I mean, is Chico not the most beautiful place in the spring? I am so grateful for that. There was a lot of toil that that I was able to create with that. But I really think that complacency is settling for less. How do I want to say that? I don't know the term. The only thing I can think about is like under potentialed. You have all these gifts and talents, and you're settling. You're not stepping into the stream of the gifts and talents that you are uniquely wired. So I was talking earlier about being wired. I love a spreadsheet. I have a brother who's an artist, and I can show you. I'm going to turn this so you can see one of his pieces going the right way. Yeah. So you see that? Can you see that really bright piece?
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was a contemporary artist, and he actually he went blind actually, and as he went blind, his art got brighter and brighter. So that was one of the last pieces he did before he died, before he lost his sight, and then he passed away. So I think it's just getting into the stream of how you're wired. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes into a little bit of like, you talked about how you live with gratitude. What does that tangibly look like?
Well, some days it's literally taking a pen and a piece of paper and say, what are the 20 things I'm thankful for? And what that does is it gets you off yourself. You ever just get sick of yourself? Sometimes I'm just like so sick of me. I'm so sick that, that I don't get to go on vacation. How come this or that, or how come they're, 50 hours a week, I'm working 50 hours a week and, breaking my neck, because it's wham. So I literally will, when I can feel that, we all know what that feels like. You're having a pity party. And so it's like, okay, what are the things that I'm grateful for? What are the 20 things that I can write down? And I'm serious, 20 things. And that you take a piece of paper. And so one of the banks I worked for failed. And probably about 10 days before the failure, which we knew was coming, the leadership team at the bank, what I did was, I said, you guys, we got to stay engaged. We got to stay positive. We've got this team to lead. The shit's going to hit the fan, and we don't know if we're going to have a job. There was so much uncertainty, and we'd grieved so much about this bank failing. And so what we did is we made a pact. There were 4 of us, about something we were grateful for. And we promised each other that the first thing in the morning, we would text each other something we were grateful for. And it almost became a race of who got up the earliest and could put out their gratitude for that day. And it's things like coffee, just a delicious cup of coffee, or I'll tell you what I was grateful for this morning. So remember I told you my daughter, she'll text me. And so today, so she has this wild child, and she's not sleeping very well right now. So she sent me this picture, and I hope you can see it. And so this is 5 a.m. She'd been up since 4, and she has this balls of and she fell asleep in there, and she's got her head resting on the side of it. So it was like, I'm so grateful. Her name's Gemma. We call her Gemma Bear. It's like, I'm so grateful for Gemma Bear. So I think it's just, it's a mindset. It's a shift.
Yeah. So
Okay, so I think what I would have done, I think some of what I did was okay, but I think instilling in my children, I would still instill them that you can be whatever you want. If you can do math, oh, the other thing was if you could do math, read, and write. So if you could write a literate sentence, you can be whatever you want. Because I think, and I know that there are a lot of parents like my age and younger who have, in my opinion, have enabled their children and have covered for them that they haven't done so well. They're not very independent. And because I grew up in a family that was so insulated, and I was such a daddy's girl and so cared for, that when all that trauma hit, and I didn't talk too much about that, but when that all trauma hit and my dad died and I got married, I got pregnant 3 weeks after I got married. And then my husband left when I had a 10-week-old and a 2-year-old. And I lived in Eastern Washington. I mean, I was like, I didn't have any people. And I think that I was so warped. I realized that I wasn't raised with any life skills. I didn't have life skills. So I think that raising kids with life skills, all kinds of things, be kind, learn how to manage money. When Amy was in junior high, the spreadsheet resurrected, and I put her on a budget, and she got budget money. So she got, I don't know, we figured it out, but the fact of the matter was that she got this money and she could never ask me for money. And so the first time, the very first month she got her money, she went to the Gap and she bought jeans. She spent all of her money on Gap jeans. Didn't do anything the rest of the month. So you guys were probably all going to the movies or whatever, and she couldn't go because she didn't have any money. And I felt so bad, but I didn't cave. Because she made a choice to buy jeans at the Gap. And then when she got to high school, she really liked clothes, like her mom. And so all of her friends would go out to lunch, but she was so cheap and I always had stuff to make lunches. So she would make her lunch and she would take it to the restaurant with her friends because those were the choices that she made. So both my kids are great money managers. I taught them how to, it's all about choices, right?
Yeah.
I don't care about cars. I could give a rip about cars, but some people are car people. I have one friend, speaking of cruises, so she takes her family to Disneyland for, 5 days, and and then they went on a cruise and stuff, and they have a terrible yard. They have an unlandscaped yard. I'm like, oh my gosh, you could have landscaped your yard. They'd rather travel. Okay, well, it's choices.
Yeah. So
yeah.
That's so good. So changing directions a little bit. So you talked about pivoting, which I 100% agree with. I have this mastermind right now and I talked about that a lot. So what would your tips be to people? What does that mean? What does that look like? How are you said you're supporting businesses to pivot. So tell us a little bit more about that.
So there's a lot of resources out there, believe it or not, at this time. And there's also capital out there as well through the SBA. And I know it's kind of a nightmare and all that. 3Core, so if you need capital, 3Core, it's 3 and then CORE. Their money is a little more expensive, but they're risk takers because they're the loan of last resort, which is often where entrepreneurs have to, after you've exhausted the family and the friends and the fools and you having more resources, that's where it's the loan of last resort, but they're super helpful. So I would say in the pivoting is that you really think about what are the unmet needs right now? What is it? What is an unmet need that I can make, and how can I monetize it? And I think you just have to surround yourself by other people. And I'm telling you, be generous. This is an opportunity right now. You must be generous, and you just have to just give it away, give yourself away, give your advice away. You know, consultants make a lot of money by giving advice, and that's really hard, especially if you're, and I have some friends that are consultants, and I'd actually approached one of them at one point, you know, in a casual conversation. So what would you think about whatever? And realizing, and he looked at me and he goes, so are you going to pay me for this? And it was like, ooh, gosh, yeah, ouch. Yeah, 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 okay. We'll do this on a real, we'll engage you in a contract or whatever. But I think it's really, really taking stock of what it is that you do and how can that help us as we restore our economy. The restaurants, you guys, and I don't know how they're going to do this, but when they open, they're going to be half the size, half the staff. How are they going to survive? What the curbside thing ain't going to cut it. I mean, I don't think that even pencils out now for many of the restaurants, but they want you to keep them top of mind. The other thing is, well, I think it's just really paying attention to what's around you and talking to people. What do they see that it's an unmet need? What do you see in your own house?
Yeah, that's so good. Thank you so much, Katy. We're going to wrap up now.
Sure.
I have a lot more questions, but it's about that time. But we just want to say thank you so much just for your time, for being here, for all the amazing information. So just real quick before, I know that the other panelists are going to say a few things, but will you just go over just real quick your main points one last time? And then I always like, if you have something tangible that you would suggest for us to do, homework. I like homework.
Oh, you want homework? I hate homework. You know why? Because I like it to be done. I hate that looming black cloud.
That can be the homework then. You have to turn off the computers at the end of the day.
Well, the other thing is, I also learned is I'm not a procrastinator. I'm that person that gets things done ahead of time because it stresses me out. You entrepreneurs, I suspect that there are many, many nights that you don't sleep because you're working on your deal. Yeah, that ain't me. So I think it's the to live authentically. I think to be true to yourself, be true to your talent, and to live a grateful life. Just the whole gratitude. Just be grateful.
Yeah, that's so good.
Yeah.
Katy, any of you other panelists have anything to add before we let Katy go?
I just want to say, Katy, I just appreciate your words as a single mom, trying to grow a business and grow two humans. Seeing your kids as the giving, loving, and contributing adults that they are is just really inspiring to me. So thank you for being that person in my life.
So let me brag on them real quick for a minute. So I turned 60 a few years ago, and Jody, you'll probably remember this. And so my kids came to me and they said, you know, you're turning 60. It's a huge birthday. And we just want to tell you how grateful we are for you and the sacrifices that you made for us. And as they got older, because I never remarried, you guys, because, and this is another session. I had never seen a blended family that was successful, that I thought was like, I want to be like those people. I didn't know one. And I just thought, I don't have the capacity I don't have the emotional bandwidth to do that. So I made a choice for me that I couldn't do that. I couldn't bring in other kids, and I just didn't have the emotional bandwidth. So I think my kids have realized as they got older, the sacrifices that I made for them. So when I turned 60, my kids took me to Italy for my birthday. And we went for 11 days, and it was just the three of us. And so, you know, Jody, I want you to know your kids, as hard as it is, and if they think that you're like the worst mother and you're impatient and why are we having grilled cheese for dinner again or whatever. Anybody else?
Sorry, my video froze. Shannon, did you have anything you wanted to say before we close up? Okay.
Yeah, I have two. Hi, Katy. I'm Shannon. Thank
Hi,
you so much for
Shannon.
speaking. They're both chamber related in a way.
Sure.
Can you talk about how the chamber helps support local business?
Sure. So the biggest thing that we do is advocacy. So many small business owners, they don't have time to do their own advocacy with government, a lot of regulation stuff, legislation that's coming down that affects businesses, and also providing them information. So one of the things that we've done during COVID is that we've taken this mountains of information and we've distilled it down, we've chunked it out. So even on our website, it's divided up between financial, HR, legal, and then we call other, which is customer. And so how do you retain or get new customers during this time? So that's really what we do, is provide tools. And I think the benefit at this, it's so interesting, the timing of life. Having been a banker, I can understand the Paycheck Protection Program. I can understand the economic injury, disaster loan stuff, and what does that mean? Do you really want to take a loan? So I think just providing, not just, but providing tools and advocacy for businesses.
Awesome. And then my follow-up is, you mentioned that Chico is going to look very different. Well, the world's going to look very different, but to Chico, how do you think it's going to look different after COVID? What's your predictions?
Well, I'm sad to say that there are some businesses aren't going to come back, which I think is really sad. And the reason that makes me so sad is that they operated on the brink of disaster for a long, long time. And they just on the brink. So if you don't have 30 to 45 days of operating capital, boy, you shouldn't be in business. And maybe you're really good at whatever it is you do, but you're a terrible business person. I think what has happened to, and I'm an old-fashioned banker, the customer, I'm part of your team, is that they've kind of gotten away from a lot of that, and they didn't have anybody, they didn't have a good accountant, or they didn't have a good, relationship with their banker who could coach them along the way. And I think sometimes they think that maybe they didn't need it, but some of these businesses that closed down right away, they never should have been. And I know this is the heartless banker in me. They never should have been in business in the first place. So some of those are going to go away, but I think that you're going to see some creativity. I look at the online platforms, some of the businesses downtown. Let's see here. It was Fifth Street Clothing, Hubs, and I'm trying to think of who the third one was, but they've gone to online. It's a huge, huge undertaking through Shopify. It's an online platform. You guys probably know all about Shopify, but it's a great platform. So if you have a retail business, you need to get on Shopify, because we know there's going to be a resurgence of COVID come this winter. You couple that with the flu, we might have to cancel Christmas, you guys. I mean, I don't mean to be saying we may be canceling Christmas this year. So if for small business, for retailers especially, that's their harvest. And if they can't harvest in December, if they survive now, they're not going to survive. They're going to have to close up. So now is the time to start planning. How do I become an online, business? What about websites? And I mean, how many shops do you go in Chico and they go, okay, here's your receipt, and they're writing it, and don't you poke your eyes out? I mean, oh my gosh, 2020 people. And I'm old and I'm saying that. So I just think that people are going to have to pivot. They're going to have to get with the program.
Are you sharing that information through the Chamber of Commerce or a newsletter, just to hey guys, this is coming back. Here's some things you need to be aware of, X, Y, and Z. Okay.
Well, sort of, we're saying that. Public health is saying that. Public health is saying, and Fauci, Dr. Fauci, should he run for president or what? Oh,
yeah.
That guy. Personal endorsement right there. But Dr. Fauci tells us that it's going to come back. It's going to be a resurgence. There's going to be a nexus with the flu. So Christmas might be canceled this year if we don't pay attention. So if you are a business owner, you need to plan accordingly. You need to get with the program. If you have to shut your business down and shelter in place, how are you going to stay alive? What does that look like? And maybe some of you entrepreneurs, those are Those are the things, those are some of the problems that you can solve for a small business owner. How can they get online? You know, what can they do to help?
Yeah. It's great. Great information. Thank you, Katie. Can you guys all hear me? My internet was going in and out. I was missing some stuff, but I think I have homework for everybody because I like homework. When it's this kind of stuff, don't give me math. But I think we started the session with it talking about giving and what you can give to your clients, your potential clients. And I think we could end with that also. So I think the homework could be, you know, think of a way that you can give something away, whether it's a free PDF on how to do something or a video or something. Think of a way to give something away to people, or even family or your neighbor or whatever it is. So thank you guys so much for joining us. And Katie, that was amazing. And I wish I could see all of your faces in person. So anyways, thank you. I think I'm frozen again.
So share this information, but feel free to reach out to me. My email is Katy, Katy, at chicochamber.com. If you have any questions or you want to follow up, or you were too embarrassed to ask a question. That happens a lot. People think they don't want to look like they're stupid or something.
So that's Katy at chicochamber.com.
Yeah, Katy.
Okay. I'm going to put it in the chat so everyone has
Yep.
that. Great. Thank you.
Might not answer it today, but
That's your homework. Just kidding.
I don't work. It's the weekend. Yeah. Okay. Hey, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you. Applause to you.
Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah,
Bye,
you
guys.
too.
We'll see you all soon.